42 minutes after 8 p.m. and welcome back to Salamida. This is Friday Night Live with me, ST, and obviously Zakir Daud. Right, so we're continuing with the sports segment. And if you've just tuned in, good evening to one and all, a relatively moderate Johannesburg, to all of our listeners out in KZN, in Durban. We welcome one and all if you've just tuned in on 90.4 FM and 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. Wherever you are, Itaola, and yes, welcome to the show. Right, so now we are talking to our sports pundit this evening, Len Moleko. We are discussing football. The Premier League obviously is underway. It's obviously commenced, and I'm sure many are happy that football is back on the calendar and on the agenda as well. There's been lots of talking points regarding that. We just spoke to Banyana captain Janine van Wyk. It was such informative chat. Len, good evening to you, my man. Welcome once again to the program.
Thank you very much. It's been a while. 3 months been.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Yes. So, yeah, you have come out of quarantine. I'd like to say back on the airwaves here with us at Salam Media. Great to have you here, man. So yeah, I'm so amped that football is back on the calendar. EPL. So let's start off. First things first, I want to discuss some of your thoughts regarding the ABSA Premiership and the sponsorship. With regards to the PSL here, as EPSA is obviously ending the sponsorship of the league also. And also I want to talk to you a bit about the Black Lives Matter on the on the EPL t-shirts, and we're seeing a lot of this in the media and in the news. Some of your thoughts. Let's start off with the PSL. First things first, the announcement from EPSA after I think about 14 or 15 years now. What are some of your reflections on that?
It was, as sad as it was, it's something that a lot of us saw coming, because a lot of the journals have been speaking, and I think since about January, the disinterest to continue further with the league was sort of like being spoken in the corridors from those who know at executive level. And the South African, well, the Premiership in this country is such a it's such a golden opportunity to be aligned to, that I feel maybe for ABSA they're looking to move towards a different direction, and in a bigger scope. I mean, they left the Currie Cup a while ago, because the Currie Cup in rugby was sponsored by ABSA. They left that, so I think maybe the bank is moving towards a different direction, in a sense that maybe sports is not really what they desire to be. Now that I think the only sporting code that they have is the Cape Epic, and you also wonder how that's gonna go for. So the PSL was a big draw card for them, because it's a sport, it's a league that enjoys so many people, and the relationship that the PSL had with EPSA sort of like gave a springboard to companies at Africa to be like, wait a minute, there's something that's happening here that's a relationship. Maybe we should jump in. ABSA came in, and teams started getting paid integration for money with the sponsorship rights and the monies that are given to teams on a monthly basis. So teams started functioning like how your Premier League teams. When this relationship started, there was with it. It so happened that Barclays was also sponsoring the Premiership. So it was a match made in heaven. But unfortunately, at some point, when you have business objectives and you sort of like pumping money into a product that's not really in the foreseeable future in terms of the direction you want to take as a bank, then you're lost to go. But this also, I mean, with everything that happens, a door that closes opens a new one, because this now brings in new players who are probably going to try outbid each other in terms of taking over the rights, and as such, it probably means that there's going to be so much more money that's going to be pumped into the local league, and it could probably just take the quality to an even higher level than it already is.
I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of quality that we can produce. And just, prior to the show, I was chatting to somebody here at the studios, and we were talking, and I was speaking to my producer, and we were reflecting, as we were talking about the show, and I was saying, where are the likes of, like, Eric Tinkler and Mark Fish, Quentin Fortune, who made it at such big teams. We need to be producing that. 10 years after the World Cup, we've got these fantastic stadiums. Funding's not a problem in our country. I mean, if we're looking at the continent, looking at the likes of Mali, I mean, take the likes of Ivory Coast, they don't have the infrastructure that we have, yet they produce players of such caliber that are dominating, and can dominate football in general. But anyway, that's another talking point. I want to talk about, the EPL return, Bundesliga, looking at the Premier League live at the moment. Southampton thrashing Norwich 3-0. Big match as Mourinho faces his old foes, Man United, this evening. This weekend's football. If we're looking at the English Premier League as well, there's so much going to be happening. Arsenal are taking on Brighton. There's West Ham and Wolves. We know, obviously, the return of the Europa League will be coming up soon. Len, what are you looking forward to most now that the EPL is obviously underway, and Serie A as well? Liverpool, I think, are just 2 wins away from clinching the title. Manchester City have thrashed Arsenal due to David Luiz and his drop slump in form. I would assume that players would come back, with such hunger and desire for results. But it looks the other way around. Maybe pressure.
I'm gonna start with the league, where I see it, or what I'm looking forward to. I think a battle for fourth is very interesting, because looking at it now, you've got actually battle for fourth and third, because at 53, the difference between Leicester and Chelsea is just 5 points, and then there's Man United in the mix. There's Sheffield United, there's Wolves, there's Tottenham, there's Arsenal. All those teams fight for position 3, maybe position 4. So the fight for Europa and the fight for the Champions League is going to be very interesting. And what's going to make it even more interesting is that there's a huge chance City might not be in the Champions League next season because of the financial fair play rules and how they broke them. As a result, their punishment is going to be there, not being in the Champions League next season. So if you remove Man City off of that list, there are 2 spots perhaps that will go to the likes of Chelsea, Man United, Sheffield United, Wolves, Arsenal, and with the remaining games, 8-9 games right now, it's going to be very interesting how everything goes. For Liverpool, they just have to play. They're out of the Champions League. They're out of the FA Cup. All they have to pay for is the Premier League, and this is something that they've been looking forward to for as long as I can remember. And they 2 games that say, I mean, only maybe another COVID situation will stop them, and this has to happen in the next 2 weeks, because they've already won it. I mean, the lead that they have, the 22-point lead that they have, it's almost virtually impossible for them to do what they did a couple of years ago when Steven Gerrard slipped against Chelsea. They go this time around.
We all remember the Dembaba attack.
This time around, it's in the bag. They just have to play those 2 games, and the title will be theirs. So the battle for third and fourth will definitely be very interesting. And relegation-wise, Norwich, I don't really see them producing any miracle. Aston Villa, perhaps they could do something. Bournemouth, perhaps they could do something. Because if you look at the relegation battle, start with Brighton at 15th, who are on 27 points. You've got Watford on 27 points. You've got Bournemouth 6, Norwich on 21. The next 9 games. In fact, I think the next 4 or 5 games are going to be very as to what happens with those bottom 5 teams and who's going to be heading in what direction. The rest of the guys, your Southamptons, your Newcastles, your Evertons, they're just probably looking to just balance their season out and finish in a respectable position. But I think the top nine teams that I mentioned and the bottom five teams that I mentioned are pretty much the ones that have all to play for, because it's either you go down, you stay up, or it's either you make Champions League in Europa or you don't.
Well, looking at Southampton, they thrashed Norwich 3-0. So they're obviously hovering around 14th position, but they're going to move up, obviously. And as you can see, they're pushing for a top 10 finish. We know Newcastle and the takeover, or the potential takeover as it's yet underway, with involvement from Saudi-backed company, who's backed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Big money there. But also, in contrast, looking at big money, Man City, obviously owned by the Abu Dhabi Group as well, and they're under fair play restrictions. Let's talk about Black Lives Matter on the T-shirts, and the way this whole thing has played out. We're seeing it so big on a football stage. However, in contrast, no live spectation. And my question tonight to the listeners is, looking at football without spectators, it feels like you're watching a football team training, right? The lack of noise. On the other hand, FIFA have got synchronized sound in some games and in some leagues as well. And I was like, whoa, man. I mean, I might as well jam some FIFA 20 here. You know what I'm saying? What do you think about this whole thing? I mean, this surely plays on the player's mentality. I mean, you used to, that atmosphere, that drive, that noise, that odd bottle being thrown on the ground, that slur being passed in the corner of the pitch, whatever the case is. What do you make of this in FIFA and EPL and the Black Lives Matter on the shirts? I mean, what do you make of it?
I'm gonna start with the Black Lives Matter on the shirts. I
Mm.
think it was a brilliant by the Premier League, because given now that the fans are not in the stadium, the fans are at home watching the game on television, so the attention is so much wider. I mean, I was reading, I think this morning, that the game between Arsenal and City was the first game not involving Liverpool or Man United that had an audience of over 3.5 million people. So
Wow.
the gravity of that, uh, notice that, I mean, Black Lives, you know what, with George Floyd a couple of years ago, and message that is strong, because football is that sporting code that we know that so many people, it grows up so many cities, countries, towns all around the world. And if you are the Premier League and you are at the forefront of this, why not be at the forefront of bringing out a message that pretty much is, it's you know what has been happening, and you need to join that voice. A lot of what happens to the team is as a result of the the Black Lives, the Raheem Sterlings, the Mo Salahs, the like all the guys, the Aubameyangs of this world. So why not push across that message using people that fans who might be guilty of literally not understanding what the whole notion of Black Lives Matter is? Why not use their heroes and actually understand that, yo, this is what our heroes are all about as well? So if they're gonna kneel, and the funny thing about the kneeling in American football, in the NFL, it was condemned. Colin did it, and then he was shunned by his team. But now seeing the Manchester Cities, the Arsenal Uniteds, the Southampton, Man United, all those guys wearing the Black Lives Matter. To a degree, I feel that as footballers, because they know that they carry the hope, they carry the dreams, the excitement of their fans on their back, they feel
Yeah.
for now there's a different burden, if I can put it that. There's a different,
Len,
there's a different.
this makes me ponder and go back to, around about 2010, when, FIFA came with the slogan, say no to racism. And I was out in Alexandra. It's a township here in Johannesburg. And they had a FIFA training ground there with this massive boards, say no to racism. And it makes us reflect, as a nation, how far we have come. I want to talk about, the upcoming match, Man United versus Tottenham. to all of our Al Ansar listeners out in Durban as well, and Liverpool fans. I know there are plenty out there as well. Um, what are your expectations on tonight's game? I mean, Mourinho going up against his old team, Man United. Let's conclude the segment with that talking point.
Tottenham, Harry Kane is back from what I can see. So it should be a good upside because I don't think he's played any competitive football since roughly around January. And when Harry Kane is back, he always offers that extra uh, that extra element in front. When you've got the ball, you can always dip it in,
Yeah.
be it with the head or the foot. He's always got that with him. But Manchester United as well. I mean, they've been looking relatively decent since the signing of Bruno Fernandes. You've got Martial be there. Rashford should be there as well. I think he's
Yeah,
done
he
his
is back on
form.
form.
Yes. So it's just a matter of, I haven't actually looked at the starting lineups. I don't know if they are out yet. But I mean, if you've got Martial, you've got Rashford, you've got Bruno Fernandes, you've got Fred, who's been looking very good actually over. So backline, there, but Luke Shaw, you've got there's relatively a balanced Manchester United team. Not the Manchester United that you want, but it's got all the ingredients that actually play entertaining football. And I know a lot of people will go out and criticize them for not playing. But with an addition of
Then,
Fernandes,
just to conclude, as we are pushing for an ad break, what's your score prediction?
I'll give it 2-1 to Man United.
2-1. Well, we'll chat next week and we'll follow up. How's that? And we'll have a look. Len, once again, thank you for your time, my man. You have an awesome evening, and we'll chat again next week, same time. Take care, my man.
Full time. Same to you, bro.
Cheers, man. Len Moleko talking to us there this evening. Then that brings us. We are going to cross over, and there's going to be some headlines coming up in a few moments or so. Thereafter, we're continuing with the program. This is Friday Night Live with ST. We're coming to you live from Johannesburg.